Good morning. My name is Tom Cross, and today we're talking about executive seminar on building an artificial intelligence marketing and business validation strategy. This is part of an ongoing series and part of a book I wrote called Mind Meld, Merging Mental and Mental. Sounds the same, but it's mental and metal. And it's also a part of a series on building what I call a corporate intelligence agency. It's kind of an AI approach to competitive intelligence, market intelligence, product intelligence, etc. If you have any questions, you're welcome to email me or call me at any time. Here's my contact information. Got a few road rules. My job is to speak. Your job is to listen. If you get done before me, you're free to go out to play. Or looking at another way, you can read 5 times faster than I can speak, and I'm certainly counting on that. So away we go. This is kind of a brief introduction to the concept here, but kind of highlighted by the fact that both Fortune and Forbes have had major articles in the last week on the fact is that AI has failed. It's been a major failure in many, many circumstances, and towards the end of this presentation, we'll explain why it has failed. Because what happens is that people don't really understand what AI is. It's kind of like, well, I think I'll have some digital transformation or I'll have some other things out there, and the technology just really doesn't lend itself well to just being labeled as a topic or not. Again, here's the Forbes article. 93% of executives expect to get some value from AI. 65% report they're not seeing any value from their AI investments. So high hopes, low results. And so throughout this whole process, and we hope that you'll consider doing these kind of validations before you embark on doing any kind of AI development yourself. This is kind of the results we've found so far in doing these things. We can't really talk about too many because of non-disclosure, but we find that companies are seeing this really helps guide them in the right direction, because again, the people in the organization are enthusiastic about AI. That's fine, all the rest of the stuff, but basically you need kind of an outside audit or a review of your processes, because it's, at the end, at the bottom one, I think it's good. AI is not a panacea, nor one thing. It's everything. The AI validation took longer and cost more, but was worth 10 times the value we didn't waste. You can waste a lot of money, but time is something that no one can waste. So moving right along, part of the reason why AI is important is because you cannot predict competitive hack attacks, either in M&A, advances in tech, or anything else, nor react to them. You can only direct your customers to your content and thought leadership. And how you build your AI system will direct your customers to your ultimate strategy in the long term. And part of the thing is that, having it just saying AI is not really AI out there. It's because the other problem is that AI tends to be very static and kind of fixed, whereas the demographics of customers and the market certainly changes more rapidly than we can predict out there. So again, this is not a drill. This is a real event that you need to take advantage of. So part of it is we see that building your own AI system or ultra AI system, for example, would have told us competitors. So some people are using it for different things. It's not just about how to make an autonomous vehicle, make your brakes work better, or open the car door, or a can of soup. It's really helping you gain more intelligence on what is going out there in the marketplace. And so I think part of it is, what is your expectations for artificial intelligence? And frankly, most of the things I've seen out there are frankly not AI. So part of it is build a long-term view, figure out where you're really trying to go, and realize that what AI is today will not be what it is tomorrow. I think you can see from various trade shows out there that, people want to go, they want to hear this stuff, but they don't really understand how to do this. And it's just, to me, in my estimation, not just another coding project out there. Focus on compelling business issues like delivery logistics, complex customer order processes, changing customer patterns, and other complex issues that you don't really have an immediate solution, or that your business is changing and you want a new way to solve the problem. Don't put your face in the rearview mirror. Look forward to where you want to be, not just where you're at right now. The other key point is that explore both historical and new data. Yeah, historical data is good, but what happens is that people look at that historical data and build a system on top of that, and by the time they get that done, the market has completely changed. So in other words, you've got to bring those things together of where you are now, the information, statistics, data, analytics, data points, etc., and then look at how you want to build those in the future, because I cannot think of a time in my lifetime that things are not changing as fast as they are. They're really changing faster. Explore, new ways to solve problems out there. I think that's what I like to think of, is to build, a way for changing data analytics. So if the demographics change, how does your data change? More than a better data algorithm, build an evolving data modeling process, because the people that are going to be in the organization doing these kinds of things are not the ones that are there today. Organizations change much faster than we predict as well. I really was surprised at the fact is that the people working on these projects are now gone. They've gone to somewhere else. They've gone to something more lucrative. Part of the thing is that how do you evaluate what you've got when you've got finished with it? I think that really is a very complex process, and it's not easy. And so this validation, we'd like to think is there you go, but we think that as change, you need to build this process into your systems so that you have, again, a third party or an internal audit process to make sure that you're going in the right direction, so that at some point the data matches where you're at, not where you were. The other thing that I'm really focused in on, I did this webinar yesterday on building strategic customer assessments, is that one thing that people think about is like they think of AI as some sort of, again, this panacea. It's like this one thing that fits all circumstances out there. And this is just one slide, the way you look at AI or machine learning or machine data or big data, whatever you want to call the thing. Expert systems is another favorite term I like to think of. And approach it by customer type. Who are you building your AI for? Who is really going to be the recipient of the data or have to use this information in the future? And again, make sure those people are involved in the whole process. Because those involved in the decision of your solution, you will never know all of them. And so make sure you're kind of keyed into all those kind of elements out there. The other thing is to build an AI business model. I think that many people focus on an AI product model or AI market model. However, part of the thing is that you got to build an AI business model. Maybe you need to start a new company. What we see out there is, a cross-section of well over 200 or 300 AI, so-called AI companies I've looked at, and products and solutions. They're all kind of so narrowly focused on one particular task out there. And it doesn't appear that task may change, or is the task changing, or is the AI changing the task? I think, we all think that, the famous saying is that technology changes us in different ways that we don't really anticipate, such as like road rage and other complex issues out there. So keep that in mind as you build your AI business model out there. There's different ways to look at this process. The next few minutes, I'm going to talk about different kind of ways to use the technology. One way to do is use AI not for specific activities, but basically think of it as a weather model out there. Whether you call it a heat map or spaghetti weather map for competitors, startups, industry, global trends, etc. Start thinking about AI as not necessarily something specific that you're going to solve today, whether it be a logistics problem or process management. Think of, lots of ways to use AI, but again, these are not one AI fits all systems. They're all individual types of AI that exist out there. You can build all kinds of different heat maps out there, and again, where are you going with this information? What information, what data points are you gathering that leads you to make, thoughtful decisions? And I think what I call them cross-net points is the way you integrate all that kind of data into one process and say, okay, this is the best way to validate this business plan, this battle plan out there, whatever you want to call it out there. I spoke with a client last night for nearly 2 hours about the fact is that they were looking for some kind of like sports game model that they could apply to sales groups. Great idea. Here's how AI could apply to that. So think of specific problems that you have out there, not just problems that you already have out there. Think how to solve the future problems out there. A little AI humor out there. Where does the AI stop and the human start, or vice versa? Don't forget to think that AI. If you have an AI sales manager, they may have the same problems that you have today, because again, the people who are building these AI systems are people, not robots. The other thing is that I think that people think, oh, we're going to have an AI sales process out there. I think that yes, if you saw my seminar yesterday, you can talk about a self-service versus a sales service model out there and different approaches to that. But again, you've got to keep thinking about how Where is your sales going with this? What is the real weakness in your sales? Is it sales, training, leadership, etc., lead generation, etc.? The other part of this thing, I think, is that we don't really anticipate all the consequences, unintended consequences of what's going to exist out there. It's kind of hard to read this, but this is where you've got boss road rage, because you may end up with a robot boss who fires you. The next few slides, we're going to talk about the different technologies that exist out there and kind of help you guide you. So if you do it yourself, you don't need me to do this. You can start thinking about this. Autopilot is not an AI system. I think that people think that the autopilot is a system that really is smart out there. No, it's reacting to changing weather conditions, pilot conditions, etc., and making decisions based on what humans do, the simulation out there. Saying you have AI is not just AI, just fake tech, as AI is not just an algorithm. It's not. Algorithm comes from the term rule of thumb. People think, oh, I've got this AI algorithm that's going to solve the problems out there. It may solve one problem. It may solve that problem really well, like making tomato soup, but not vegetable soup. I also think that, AI is coming. It's going to be part of our process. And whether it's really intelligent, I have, a lot of doubts about where that intelligence is going to be out there. Maybe more like a small child out there. Maybe drive a car, but, as we saw on TV today, may drive the car off the road or brake too soon, or may think that an overpass is really something, is another car. So building a quantum-driven thing, I'd approach to AI. I think that Google made an announcement yesterday, and IBM's fully involved with this. You can go to IBM's quantum website and start programming on a quantum computer today. So thinking about different models of how you build your AI is another part of the process. It's not just using traditional coding techniques and all the various kind of AI programming languages out there, because again, the coding process is an after fact. That's basically taking the process and put it into machine language. But again, you've got to think of what kind of machines we're going to have out there. Quantum computing is really moving at a much faster rate than I think people ever thought about. This year, next year, whatever, quantum computing, and probably within 3 to 5 years, we'll have quantum laptops. Quantum computing is moving at a much faster rate out there. How we can use that certainly will help us think differently. So again, it's AI. We've got to keep thinking differently all the time about the different processes that exist out there. And whether you call it machine learning, big data, again, different terms out there, think about how you want to do that. So the next part is I'm going to go through 3 types of what I call intelligence out there. People think AI is this one thing. I think it's composed of 3 distinct characteristics, what I call vertical intelligence. It can make one kind of soup, but not all kinds of soup. So that's one way to look at, we're making soup, okay? We're going to build this AI system to make soup or drive this car or whatever, but it may not be able to ride a bicycle or fly a plane. So distinctly different activities involved what I call vertical intelligence. The next area is what I call lateral intelligence. Humans are really kind of great about lateral intelligence, because we can ride a bicycle, drive a car, fly a plane, all at the same time. Not the same time, but certainly within reason, all in the same day. So keep in mind that different types of AIs are going to be needed by different types of people out there. So that's what I call lateral intelligence. The oblique kind of intelligence is really something that's really kind of what we'll call obscure. We don't, humans have this kind of thing. We integrate our emotions with our intelligence, and often we make, emotional intelligence decisions or decisions based on our emotions. So how we do that, and that could be called leadership, that could be called management, it could be called, communications, collaboration. We need to think about how those kinds of things are kind of what I call lateral or oblique and vertical types of intelligence. So just keep those in mind as you're moving ahead out here. Here's all 3 of them put together. I'd like to think ideally they're more human-like, where we can solve, the systems will solve more than one problems. But I think that's going to be really hard, because again, the people building the systems are only thinking in whether vertical, lateral, or oblique kinds of ways. And so bringing those all together is very difficult. It doesn't mean that the market validation is not valid. It just means that you understand what the expectation is out there, and then you take it and you apply it to your brand, content, technology, organization, whatever, see if that really works. Because again, if you're thinking in what I like to think about, that corporate intelligence agency, the CIA, we're using it to gather intelligence. the more intelligence information we gather out there, we integrate that with human intelligence to make decisions. So machines will always be around to help us make better decisions, but what are those decisions we were trying to accomplish out there? Is it, solving a human relations problem, a product problem, a market problem, etc.? So there's different ways to build these kinds of systems out there. And again, you have to think about who's going to be using this at the end. This is the slide that kind of reflects the Fortune and Forbes article. The different types of, it's hard to read, maybe a little bit too small, but on the other hand, there are a lot of ways that AI has failed out there. And that's what they didn't really talk about in the Fortune and Forbes article. Why has it failed? It just says that they're not expectations. Well, people who have made those decisions about AI are probably not willing to lose face over why they made those decisions, but you can keep those in mind. But here are the common problems we see. It's just too narrow, too wide, cost too much, changing needs, etc. Didn't really solve any problems at all, and we kind of put it in the corner, and maybe we'll think about it in another 3 to 5 years. That's the problems out there. Also, I put this part in here, which I think is important to realize, that your AI system is subject to security attacks. And so whether you call it data poisoning or flamethrower or other things out there, we have to keep that in mind, that this is not immune to cybersecurity attacks and needs of great protection out there. Towards the end, we kind of talk about how we kind of integrate those kinds of terrorist attacks in there, build trust for the system. I mean, the real problem about Boeing 737 MAX right now is, do you really try, even when it gets back in the air, and it's uncertain at this point whether it will be, whether you're going to really trust it or not. And so trust, the article this morning about self-driving cars was the fact is that the one manufacturer's car uses brakes too much, and so therefore the driver got their money back because they did not trust driving the car anymore. So building trust into these kinds of systems is really hard. Again, this is why part of the validation is to think about how other ways that you can kind of integrate the processes of intelligence into what you're doing right now, and then have a validation process ongoing. The new CEO is not a coder, but as a model for expertise and ultimately the SME, subject matter expert for your organization. Build the AI based on key CEO thinking. I like to think this is a really opportunity for people to take a different look at AI. No one has really talked about this before, and I really think it's kind of important that if you look at the CEOs and what happens in their business and what are they doing, whether Mark Bessioff of Salesforce or Mark Zuckerberg or all these different Tim Cook at Apple, et cetera, they're making organizational-wide decisions. So why not incorporate that kind of AI thinking into the C-level or the C-suite activities? So rather than just solving some simple problem, solve a strategic problem, solve a futuristic problem, solving something for help the CEO to make better decisions out there. So part of the thing is that you need to kind of think about, again, how to think about the future. That is really hard, and how you do that is you have to look at your organization, where you want to go with your organization, and realize that may change. I like to think is that it's going to be a long time process out there. The other part of the future trends out there is that there are going to be different formats of AI, different technologies that it's used for, different ways its kind of content is built. What information is the user really getting out of this thing? We did a study for a huge company with 100,000 people in the one division, and the real problem was gathering the subject matter experts, the expertise from those to build an AI system. So you have to say, well, it's nice to say AI, and it could be many of the reasons why it's failed is because the people who have the expertise don't want to give it up. It's not that they really don't. It's just they say they don't really have time for it. So you've got to figure out how to build independent subject matter experts, maybe an AI subject matter expert, so that all those people come together and they're working on focusing on that kind of content building. So you have to think of that AI is not just one thing, it's many things, and there will be many, many more things in the future. Game theory is a nice way to incorporate training or learning of these systems, and how you build these things for both human use, and in this case, person-to-machine or machine-to-machine intelligence might be a better way to solve the problem or use the so-called artificial intelligence. Again, I like to think that artificial intelligence is something that really is intelligence. It may be machine-based. I like machine intelligence rather than artificial. Sounds like artificial flavoring, but it's a machine-based, so you understand where that information, that knowledge is coming from. And in the future, plan for the future. Things are coming much faster than we predict out there. I think that weaponized robots are well on their way of coming about. Far too many people would like to use them against their neighbors or people driving down the street. Quantum computing is going to be accessible to all in the next 5 years. Keep in mind that privacy and those, we'll call it human issues, will not go away and not ever be possible. And maybe you're using the thing to really invade people's privacy even more. Also, this is a picture from the BP oil spill. There are going to be ways to use artificial intelligence in places that humans can't go, in space, underseas, etc. So keep in mind those kind of activities. And the last part of it is that there's going to be uses or potential uses for, again, places where humans, again, don't want to go with other humans due to diseases and other types of activities. Conclusions, these things do work. They've helped a lot of people in a lot of different directions. Again, it's not a panacea. It's not a one thing kind of thing, not one and done. And you have to keep in mind that it's an ongoing process out there. We've incorporated AI into our strategic assessments, our corporate intelligence agency, and other aspects of it, and find that it really does work. So here's one you can do in yourself. Build an AI product marketing validation now. It's an art, not a science. It's design, delivery, and development. And delivery takes time, and is a repeat cycle. You got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it. It's like people think, well, gee, I go to the exercise and I'm one and done. No, you're not one and done. You're never done. So I think part of the process here is develop AI thinking in your organization. How can machines solve human problems, not just database problems? The real problem is, again, we see out there is it's always solving data problems. Think about how it can be used for solving human problems. Evaluate the validation like legal discovery. Make sure you have a premise, but the outcomes may go in different directions. Again, you may have a premise of where you want it to go, but likely it's going to be in a different direction that you didn't really think about. Keep iterating, keep repeating until you get it right, and keep on going. Here's a few background on my skills and expertise. A few other information, quotes, and things like that. Again, we've done this. We've done it well. People are really pleased by the whole process. It's all integrated into different concepts, whether these are other webinars you're welcome to attend to on building strategic customer assessments, crisis communications, and crisis management communications. Those are a really important process out there. Again, one of my favorites is how to incorporate artificial intelligence, machine learning, into building a competitive intelligence or corporate intelligence agency. Start someplace where you really are weak. I think that competitive intelligence is a great opportunity to start. Again, these are all part of the other things. You're welcome to get my MindMeld book. It's on iBooks. It's not very expensive, and I want to say thank you today for attending this. Again, if you have any other comments or questions or concerns, please email me, and there's the slides are attached. So have a great day. Thanks again. Tom Cross. Bye.